The training hall shook with the low hum of engines. Rows of alien cadets stood in formation, their bodies covered in scales, shells, and armor. The air smelled like metal and oil. At the front stood the alien instructor Craven, tall and sharp like a blade, his 4 eyes moving across the crowd. In the last row stood Kyle Hart, the only human in the room. He looked young, thin, and out of place among the alien soldiers. His uniform was too big, and his hands shook as he tried to keep them steady. Craven's voice echoed through the hall, deep and rough. "Today we talk about ancient war tactics," Craven said. "Humans once thought they could fight beside the great species. They failed. They always fail." The room filled with low alien laughter. One cadet hissed, another clicked its jaws. Kyle's jaw tightened. He felt their eyes burning into him. Craven turned toward him. "Tell me, boy," the alien said, stepping closer. "Do you still believe your kind changed history?" Kyle looked up. His voice came out rough but steady. "My grandfather did." The hall went silent for a moment, then laughter exploded again. Craven smiled with thin lips. "Your grandfather, what was he? A cleaner of engines? A cook?" Kyle took a step forward. "He trained warlords. He built ships that still fly. He taught your kind how to fight before you even learned to walk." Craven tilted his head. "Big words for a small creature. Perhaps your family told you stories to make you proud of your weakness." The laughter hit harder this time. Kyle felt his face burn. He wanted to swing at the alien, but his mind told him to stand still. Craven's claws clicked together. "If your grandfather is so mighty, bring him here. Let him teach me. I would enjoy breaking an old human." Kyle clenched his fists. His heart pounded so loud it hurt. "You'll regret saying that." "I doubt it," Craven said, turning away. Class dismissed. The cadets left in groups, whispering and laughing. Kyle stayed still. The metallic floor felt cold under his boots. When the last alien was gone, he walked out slowly down the long gray hallway lined with lights that buzzed. His reflection moved beside him on the steel walls. He passed through the lower levels of the academy, where old machines hissed steam. Human workers stayed out of sight. Most didn't speak anymore. No one wanted to stand out. Kyle didn't care. He reached his small cabin and sat by the console. His hands trembled as he typed. The screen lit up blue, showing a dusty communication line that hadn't been used in years. He hesitated, then spoke. "Grandpa, it's me, it's Kyle. I'm on the Vraxis Academy. They laughed at you. They said humans are weak. I told them the truth. I told them about you, but they want proof. I need you here. Please. I need you." He stopped and stared at the screen. No answer came. The silence pressed against his chest. He looked down, ashamed. Maybe Craven was right. Maybe the old stories meant nothing now. Then the console beeped. Static filled the air. Then a voice came through, low and rough. "Still running your mouth, kid." Kyle froze. His eyes widened. The voice carried a familiar growl. "Grandpa." "Yeah," the old man said. "You just called down trouble, didn't you?" Kyle couldn't stop the smile from breaking across his face. "They think you're dead. Then they're about to be real surprised." The signal crackled and cut. The screen went dark. Outside the academy window, far away in deep space, something old and heavy moved through the stars. A small human ship, patched and rusted, turned toward the alien world. Its engines roared to life.
The next morning, the academy buzzed with rumors. Word spread that a human ship was coming, old and half-broken. The alien cadets laughed when they heard. Some said it would crash before reaching orbit. Others said no human could fly that far alone. Kyle sat in the mess hall staring at his untouched food. His stomach twisted every time someone mentioned it. Across the room, Craven stood with a group of instructors. They watched the sky through the glass wall, waiting. Then the alarms went off. The sound tore through the air. A signal flashed on the main display, an unknown human vessel entering approach zone. The cadets rushed to the viewing decks. Outside, the black of space burned red as the small ship came in too fast. Its thrusters flickered. Smoke trailed behind it. Everyone expected it to explode, but it didn't. With a roar that shook the docking bay, the ship hit the landing platform hard enough to bend the metal. Flames burst, then died as the emergency foam sprayed across it. The hatch opened with a hiss. Out of the smoke stepped an old man in a dirty coat, his face lined like old steel. One eye was gone, replaced by a dull red lens. His left arm was mechanical, patched together with human-made plates. Eli Hart had arrived. He looked around the silent bay. Dozens of alien soldiers stood frozen, watching him. His voice came out rough but calm. "Someone call for a mechanic?" No one moved. Craven finally stepped forward, tall and proud. "You are the human the boy spoke of?" Eli gave him a look that could cut metal. "Guess so. You must be the one who's been teaching him lies." Craven laughed, deep and sharp. "We train soldiers, not storytellers." "Then you're training them wrong." Eli walked past him without waiting. His boots hit the floor with heavy steps. He stopped near Kyle, who was standing stiff and nervous. "You did good, kid, but next time, don't wait for help." Kyle tried to smile. "You came." Couldn't let them talk trash about the family. Craven turned, his tone cold. "If you are truly a trainer, human, then prove it. We have a combat arena. No weapons, no suits, only skill." Eli rubbed his jaw. "Fine." He pointed to the ring. "You first." The aliens cheered. The cadets filled the upper seats. The lights dimmed. The metal floor of the arena glowed red as the match began. Craven moved fast, his claws flashing. Eli didn't even raise his hands at first. He watched. When Craven struck, Eli stepped aside and slammed his metal arm into the alien's chest. The sound echoed like thunder. Craven stumbled back, shocked. He swung again, faster, but Eli caught his wrist and twisted until it cracked. The crowd gasped. Eli didn't stop. He spun, ducked under another blow, and dropped Craven with a short, brutal punch. The alien hit the ground hard, his claws scraping the floor. Eli looked down at him. "You fight like a machine that forgot its purpose." He turned to the crowd. "War isn't about muscle or size. It's about thinking faster than you're scared." No one spoke. The silence felt heavy. Then Eli walked out of the arena without another word. Kyle followed him through the hall. "Grandpa, that was not enough," Eli said. "They'll still think we're weak until they see what's coming." Kyle frowned. "What's coming?" Eli looked up at the ceiling, where the metal vibrated with a deep rumble. The station lights flickered. A sharp alarm screamed again, this time louder. The command deck voice shouted over the speakers. "Unidentified fleet entering orbit. Hostile signatures confirmed. Eli's face hardened. That's what's coming. The sky above the academy turned red. The orbital shields glowed as enemy fire rained down from the black clouds. Explosions shook the walls. Sirens screamed across the decks. The alien cadets ran through the corridors, shouting in their own languages. Panic spread fast. Eli Hart walked into the command room like he had done it 100 times before. His coat was torn, his face covered with oil and dust. He looked at the main screen showing the enemy fleet. Massive ships, shaped like blades, moved in tight formation. Their energy cannons lit the space around them. An officer shouted, "It's the Vorg fleet. They broke through the outer lines." Another cadet yelled, "We can't hold. Their power cores are beyond anything we have." Eli slammed his metal hand on the console, then stopped talking and moved power from the training rings to the defense grid. The alien commander glared at him. "You are not in command here, human." Eli's voice was calm but hard. "Then you'll all be dead in 5 minutes." No one moved. Kyle stepped forward. "Do what he says." The commander hesitated, then nodded. "Do it." The lights flickered as power shifted. The outer cannons came to life, firing bursts of blue light. The Academy's defenses struck back, cutting through the first line of Vorg ships. The room shook again. One of the officers shouted, "Direct hit on Sector 4. Hull breach." Eli turned to Kyle. "Get down there. Take a team and seal the breach. Move fast." Kyle grabbed his helmet and ran. The corridors were filled with smoke and flashing red lights. He passed injured soldiers and burning machines. The air smelled like melted steel. When he reached the damaged sector, the wall had a hole wide enough to see space. He and his crew pulled the heavy panels, welding them shut while the wind pulled at their suits. One of the cadets screamed as debris tore through his arm. Kyle grabbed him and pulled him back inside. "Stay with me. We're not dying here." They finished the seal as the pressure stabilized. His hands shook from the heat. He looked out the window. The Vorg ships were still coming. Back in the command room, Kreven stood by Eli's side, his pride gone. "Their second wave is preparing to strike. We cannot survive this." Eli checked the readings. "We can, if you listen. Pull the ships into a tight ring. Force them into close combat. Their range weapons won't help them up close." Craven frowned. "That tactic is reckless." Eli looked at him. "So is dying." He turned to the comms. "Kyle, hold position. When the next wave hits, reroute reactor power to the lower turrets manually." "Got it," Kyle said, his voice breaking with static. The next wave hit like a storm. The Vorg fired plasma bolts that tore through the outer decks. The Academy's hull shook. Metal screamed. Eli barked orders, moving from one console to another. His arm sparked from the strain, but he ignored it. Craven yelled, "We are losing control of the north flank." Eli shouted back, "Then make them chase you." He hit a switch and launched a volley of missiles from the lower docks. The missiles curved, drawing the Vorg ships closer to the Academy. Then the hidden mines detonated. The blast tore through the enemy line, breaking their formation. The command deck cheered. Eli didn't. He watched the screens carefully. Something didn't feel right. A warning light flashed. One of the operators screamed, "New contacts, multiple signatures, bigger than before." Eli's face turned cold. "That's not a fleet, that's their carrier." Kyle's voice came through the comms, full of static. "Grandpa, it's heading straight for us." Eli stared at the radar. The carrier's shadow covered the entire display. He whispered, "Then we don't have much time left." The Vorg carrier came out of the clouds like a black mountain. Its hull was covered in spikes and scars from 100 wars. It fired beams that tore through the upper decks of the Academy. Whole sections broke off and fell burning into the red sky below. Inside, the station shook with every hit. Eli Hart gripped the railing as the command deck filled with smoke. Alarms screamed. Sparks rained from broken panels. Craven shouted orders in his deep voice, but the crew was barely holding together. Eli stepped to the console and opened the comms. "Kyle, report," Static answered, then Kyle's voice came through. "Lower decks are holding, but power lines are shot. We're losing control of the drones." "Forget the drones," Eli said. "Get every working gun aimed at that carrier. We'll make them bleed for every meter." He turned to Craven. "Pull the ships in close. We'll fight inside their range." Craven nodded, no longer arguing. "We will follow your lead, human." Outside, the Academy's smaller ships formed a tight ring around the station. They fired everything they had. Blue fire lit the darkness. The Vorg carrier responded with a storm of plasma bolts. The space between them turned into chaos. Kyle ran through the lower corridors with a crew of mixed soldiers, alien and human. Pipes burst above them. The floor trembled. He shouted over the noise, "Seal those doors. Get the wounded out of here." A cadet grabbed his shoulder. "Sir, the reactor conduits are unstable. If they blow, we lose the core." Kyle stopped. His mind raced. "We reroute power to the secondary grid. Use the manual switches." "That's suicide," the cadet said. "Then I'll do it." Kyle ran toward the reactor shaft. The heat hit him like a wall. He climbed down the narrow ladder, smoke burning his eyes. He reached the bottom and started pulling levers. Sparks cut his hands, but he didn't stop. The lights flickered as energy redirected through the old lines. Up above, the defense cannons powered back on. Eli smiled when he saw the readings spike. "Good boy." The guns fired in sequence, hitting the carrier's lower hull. The explosions rocked the massive ship. Cracks appeared along its sides. Craven stared in shock. "We are damaging it," Eli said. "Not enough." The carrier turned and opened a giant port under its belly. A swarm of black drop pods launched toward the Academy. Hundreds of them. Eli shouted, "Brace for boarding." The pods hit like meteors. The halls filled with noise and fire. Vorg soldiers poured out, tall, armored, and fast. The fight turned brutal. Blades and plasma lit the corridors, screams filled the air. Kyle grabbed a rifle and fired down the hall. A Vorg charged him, claws raised. Kyle ducked under the swing and shot it point blank. He kicked another off the platform. His arms burned, his ears rang, but he kept moving. Eli left the command deck and moved through the smoke-filled halls with a sidearm and his metal arm raised as a shield. He found Craven fighting near the main junction. The alien was covered in blood, but still standing. Eli shouted, "We need to draw them away from the core. If they hit it, the station's done." Craven nodded. "Then we fight together." They stood side by side, pushing through the wave of attackers. Eli's arm smashed through armor. Craven's claws tore through steel. For a moment it looked like they might turn the tide. Then the floor shook harder than before. The ceiling cracked. The lights went dead. A deep, grinding noise filled the station. Eli froze. "That sound, that's the reactor." Kyle's voice came through the comms, strained. "Grandpa, something's wrong. The reroute overloaded the core. It's unstable." Eli's eyes went cold. "Get out of there now!" Kyle shouted back, "If I pull out, it blows faster." The line went silent. The rumble grew louder. Heat filled the air. Eli turned toward the reactor level. "I'm going to fix it." He started running. Craven called after him. "You will not make it in time." Eli didn't look back. "I built this kind of core once. I know how to break it without dying." He reached the lift. The doors closed. His reflection looked tired, burned, and calm. He whispered, "Hold on, kid." The lift dropped toward the glowing heart of the station. The reactor room burned with white light. Pipes burst, sending steam and sparks across the walls. The noise was like thunder inside a metal cage. Eli Hart stepped out of the lift, his face hard and focused. The floor shook under his boots. Heat rippled through the air. The core pulsed like a living heart about to burst. He saw Kyle across the room, holding a panel open. The boy's face was covered in sweat and grime. He was pulling wires by hand, trying to keep the power flow stable. Eli shouted, You should have left. Kyle looked up, his eyes wide. It's too late. If I stop now, the whole thing goes up. Eli ran forward. Move! That's not how you stop it. I can fix it, Kyle said, voice shaking. No, Eli said. You can't, but I can. He grabbed Kyle's arm and pulled him back. You did enough. Kyle struggled. You'll die in there. Eli's grip tightened. I already did once. Get to the upper decks. That's an order. Kyle hesitated, then nodded. His throat ached. Don't take too long. Eli gave a small smile. Never do. He pushed Kyle toward the exit. The door shut behind him. Alone, Eli walked to the reactor. The light grew brighter, filling the room with fire. He pulled the main panel open, revealing the control rods glowing deep red. His mechanical arm sparked as he reached inside. In the command deck, Kraven stood over the monitors. The human is still down there, he said. One of the officers replied, The core is overloading. If he stays, he dies. Kraven's voice lowered. Then he will die saving us. Kyle burst into the room gasping. We have to get him out. Eli's voice came through the comms, steady and rough. Don't bother. If this works, you'll have time to escape. Kyle shouted into the mic. Grandpa, please. Listen, kid, you did good. Better than I hoped. Now keep them alive. The line went quiet, except for static. Eli stood in front of the reactor core. His arm sank deeper into the control system. Energy crawled up his body. The circuits in his arm glowed bright blue. The metal around him started to melt. His voice was calm as he spoke to himself. You taught them everything, old man. Time to prove it still matters. He slammed the final switch. The overload reversed. The core exploded downward instead of out. The blast hit the carrier's underbelly, cutting it in half. The shockwave tore through the Vorg fleet. Their ships broke apart, engines dying one by one. From space, the Academy looked like a sunburst in the dark. On the command deck, the crew watched the explosion fade. The alarms stopped. The lights went dim, then came back. The screens showed empty space where the enemy fleet had been. Kyle stood frozen. The comms stayed silent. Kraven looked at him. He did it. Kyle's hands shook. He's gone. No one spoke. The air felt heavy. Smoke drifted through the cracks of the ceiling. Kyle looked out the viewport. The wreck of the carrier floated by, burning quietly. Hours later, the surviving ships gathered around the Academy. Messages came from across the system. Humans and aliens alike sent thanks. They called it the Heart Maneuver. They called Eli a legend. But Kyle didn't celebrate. He walked through the empty halls until he reached the observation deck. He looked out at the stars. The silence felt like a weight. Then the console beside him beeped. A signal blinked on the old human frequency. Static filled the air. Then a rough voice came through. Still working, kid? Kyle froze. His chest tightened. He turned toward the sound, eyes wide. The signal cut off, leaving only static and the hum of the engines.